Next, I want to go into a tech tip. And the tech tip for this month is really in the form of an announcement about something that we've been working on. I'm getting a little bit of a chill here because it's something we've been working on in the firm. I want to share it with you because it will have a huge impact for clients. It's already had an impact internally for us, and it will even grow into having an impact externally for those who are kind of client adjacent. They're not client of the firm. Maybe they don't need to be to get the help that they need. Maybe they're thinking about it, or maybe they're utilizing our e-courses and training materials to help them get what they need done for their business. But I want to share it with you, number one, because it's a huge win. And number two, I think it's something you should be looking at when it comes to your own business and make a decision if you've not already made one, because you will need to make a decision about this. It is an unavoidable area of your business. So, what is it that I want to announce? Well, if you've been on the blog section of our website, you can see that I've been invited many times on panels to talk about AI and large language models. And we've actually been developing internally two different agents. So if you don't know what I mean by agent, it essentially, like ChatGPT is an agent, Claude is an agent. It has its rules and parameters, and you enter the prompts and it will operate based off of the resources that it's permitted to draw from, or that it's been told or it can draw from, or it has access to, and then the rules that you've established, right, for answering questions, or answering and responding to those prompts. Let's put it like that. So we've been developing an internal agent for use within the firm based off of a database of materials that we've developed from all the years of servicing clients. So part of this is a project where we had to take some of the materials that were extremely specific to a client scenario and break it out to be more general, so that the agent can draw upon it without disclosing client information and details, which would be violative of attorney-client privilege. We had to be very clear about how it's going to pull information and what it can share. But the internal agent is to make it easier and quicker for our client support team to answer questions, to provide preliminary answers to clients until they get into that meeting with a lawyer, or until they get that more detailed and attorney review on the question that they have. And this is a huge game changer for our clients. Sometimes clients can be reluctant to ask a question because they don't want to bother the lawyer. We see this a lot. And one of the things as the owner of this firm is I want to make sure people understand that, well, yes, we have multiple clients, but we are available to you. And it didn't sit well with me, the idea that people were reluctant to ask questions because they felt like they were bothering us. And so I thought, what can we do to make it where our advice and insight is available to our clients in a way where they're comfortable, right? Sometimes people will say, well, it's not that big a deal. I'll just go online and look. And I thought, okay, well, what if I made it easier for you to go online and look? So that internal system that we created, we're using already in turning around responses to clients on a quicker basis, where our case manager and paralegal and others can start answering those questions leading up to when the attorney gets back to them, right? And that's not to say it's a long wait to get to an attorney, but sometimes people prefer to have that answer in 5 minutes versus in the call that they booked this morning for later this afternoon, right? And sometimes for them, that eliminates the need for them to have a call later in the afternoon because they feel fully satisfied from the answer that they got. So it's some of the questions that people have had are, When does Lenore recommend that I set up an LLC versus a corporation? Well, that's something that we've tested it out. Our internal agent is able to answer it. It draws upon guidance that I've given over the years. It pulls from that material and it gives insight on, well, this is when Lenore tends to suggest that a client forms a corporation, and this is when she tends to suggest that they form an LLC. And being able to have that information at the ready under the rules that work for our ethical guidelines is so helpful for clients. So that's something we've been working on internally. And then the next phase is, how do we make it client facing? So that if people are reluctant to reach out to even the paralegal or the case manager, and it's not anything about the relationship, but sometimes people say, well, I'll just go online and search for it. Why don't we make a place for them to go online and search for it from us and get that answer, and then easily be able to say, okay, let's flag it up and have a phone call, or go ahead and send this over for the attorney to review to follow up if they have more. And so that's something that's not yet deployed, but we're expecting to deploy it next quarter in the second half of this year. That is really a huge game changer. So what does this mean for you? What it means is you've really got to decide, what is your stance when it comes to large language models and AI when it comes to your business. There are some law firms where they say we are heavy on it. In fact, our firm is built around this, and that's all we service are software developers for AI and large language models and agents, right? And then there are some firms that are on the other extreme, and they barely use email. They're still mailing things and faxing things and doing in-person meetings, and that's the way they like to operate, and that's how their clients like to operate. What I think is important for your business, right, is because all of these firms are businesses, just like you have a business or are thinking of starting a business. All of them are businesses. And the one thing you really want to decide is, what is your position on AI? And make sure that whatever approach you're taking is not one that is just happening to your business, but instead is a deliberate choice for deliberate reasons. You can make a decision not to do something. You can say, we are refraining from doing X, and here's why. I've had people say, well, who come work at the firm, or they have some insight on how the firm works, and they may say, well, why don't you switch to a different case management software? This is inevitably, anytime someone starts working in the firm who deals with client matters, this is their very first question. And the thing is, as a business owner, I know that if you change your case management software every single time a new player comes in and asks a question about it, you're never going to get settled. It's always a new shiny thing when it comes to your project management system. Think of case management as project management. There's always another shiny software, right? And you can spend all your time just switching project management systems. And so we've made a deliberate choice not to switch these systems more than X number of years, and we don't revisit it. We don't revisit it until we have data, more data, more data, more data on the use, and then we can talk about whether we will switch. You can do the same. You can have a very deliberate reason why you are not engaging in something now, but make a choice, make a deliberate choice around what you're going to be doing about AI. Federal regulation is coming into play. It is having an impact every single day in your business. It's affecting market share. It's affecting how your clients and customers will think about what your business offers. It's inevitable. It's inevitable. It is here, and it will keep growing. And what I want and I desire for clients is that they are making deliberate choices about it and not just letting it happen to them. So that's my tech tip for you for this month.